Kakadosh Boker Or, Masechet Nazir Daf, Membet Amud Aleph, Shavua Tov. Yeah, we're going to start 42a1. We're by the two dots where it just says like this. Amar More says. We're talking about the Mishnah Negaim, where it says over there, V'kulam shegilchu shelo beta'ad. Any of them that they cut off their hair without using a razor, right? Or sheshiyurish te sarot, or they left over two hairs which they did not cut. Lo asu velo kelum. They didn't do anything, which means they did not fill the mitzvah of tiglachat if they did this. Okay? So Amar Ravacha b'red Ravika, says Ravacha, the son of Ravika. Zotomeret, it means to say rubo kekulo midoraita. From the fact that we're going to come and we're going to say that he has to cut off all of his hair, we learn the concept of rubo kekulo. Rubo kekulo means the majority is like everything. Right? Mimai, how do we know this? For the fact that the Torah comes and he tells by Nazir that it's not enough just to do the majority. As it says, he has to cut off his hair. On the seventh day, he has to come and he has to actually cut off his hair. Here they were makpid until you have everything. But normally, meaning by Nazir, you have to take off everything. Mashma, that if it's not by Nazir, rubo kekulo, and that's doraita, meaning the majority is like everything. So Matkif la Rabbi Yosef, Rabbi Chanina asks Rabbi Yosef, Rabbi Chanina, Hai ben Azir Tameh Kativ. One second, but this is in Nazir Tameh, it's written. Right? It's written, Bayom HaShvi'i Galachenu. Okay? Which means that a Nazir that it became Tameh met, and not by a Nazir which is a Tahor. Meaning, what are you comparing him? Maybe it could be that it's a special deen that a Nazir that became Tameh, he has a special halachot. So it says, Machaku ala be'ma'arava, they were laughing at him in Eretz Yisrael. Michti, but they said, Nazir Tameh devetar minalan. How do you know that a Nazir Tameh has to cut off his hair with a ta'ar from a Nazir Tahor, Yalif? He learns it from Nazir Tahor. So leti Nazir Tahor ve'leti Nazir Tameh. So now what? You're going to come and tell me the same thing. So just like you learned the Nazir Tameh to a Nazir Tahor that you need to use a ta'ar, so too, come and take the tiglachat Nazir Tahor from a Nazir Tameh. Ma Tameh, just like a Tameh. Ki shayash te saro v'lo klum avad. Right? Then what? That if he's going to leave over two hairs, he didn't do anything. So to here, the same thing. He didn't do anything. So therefore, that's why they went. Yeah, exactly. Just like, you can learn it back and forth. Fine. Says the Gemara, Baya comes and he asks, Nazir shegilach v'shiyeh shte sarot. If a Nazir came and he took off, right, all his hair except for two hairs. Tzamach rosho v'chazar v'gilchan. Now everything else grows, and he took off those two hairs. Ma'u watzalacha. Min me'akveh or lo? Are they me'akev now the other se'arot or not? Everyone understood? One more time. He took off all his hair. He left off the two. Then he didn't take off the two yet. He waited. Now all of a sudden, the rest starts growing. And when the rest start growing, now he takes off those two. So the fact that he's taking off those two right now, is it me'akev the fact that, 1 second, yeah, but everything else already grew back? Or do you say no? At the end of the day, he did take off the two as well. So by Rava comes and he asks the following question, another question. Nazir shegilach v'niach shte sarot. Imagine right now, and Nazir comes and he takes off all his hair and he leaves off two hairs. Gilach achat v'nasha achat. He took off the other one, and then one of them fell out on its own. Right? Was he mekayem the mitzvah of tiglachat or not? Because at the end of the day, he only took off one. The other one fell out on its own. So Amar Ravacha midifti l'Ravina. Kilach Sara kamibai l'Rava. He says what? The safek is that he took one by one? For sure not. It's pashut that he was mekayim the mitzvah of giluach. Why? Because even though each time he only took off one, right? Forget about the case that one fell off on its own. If you went and you took off one, 10 minutes later you came and you took off the other one. And again, you're using a tar. That means you're doing it properly. But you did it one by one. Are you for sure you're going to be mekayim the mitzvah? So therefore the same thing here. But rather, you have to say one of them fell off, and then the other one he took off. What's the halacha? So he says, Elmaleh gilach enkan, se'ar enkan. You didn't do the giluach, but you also don't have se'ar. Se'ar enkan giluach. So he says, 1 second, but if there's hair, meaning if there's not going to be hair, so then there is giluach. So he says, no, it means to say like this. Haki kaman. Afal pi she'se'ar enkan, mitzvah giluach. That means even though you don't have hair, but you didn't do mitzvah, the giluach. Meaning the fact that you left over the two hairs, and then one of those two hairs fell off on its own, you lost the mitzvah of giluach. You don't have it anymore, because afterwards you took off the other hair. So if you're looking at the guy doesn't have hair, but it doesn't matter. There's no mitzvah giluach because you didn't do the mitzvah. Because one of those hairs fell off on its own.
But the Nazir.
There's a Mishnah Membet Amud Aleph. Nazir chofef umfasfes. You know that a Nazir is allowed to come.
I didn't read it.
And he's allowed to start washing his hair, right? And to separate his hair with his hands and everything, right? And that means even though the Nazir is not allowed to take a haircut during his Nazirut, obviously, but he's allowed to do this. Why? Because it's a davar shenum kaveh, meaning he doesn't have kavanah to take off his hair, so it's going to be mutar. So he could come, he could start, doing shampoo and separate everything, but lo sorek, he cannot comb his hair. Because basically when he's going to comb his hair, right, the Gemara is going to explain what's the difference between combing and basically doing like this, but the Gemara is going to say you're not allowed to. Says the Gemara, chofef ufasesmani, who's the one that says you're allowed to be chofef ufasesmani? With Shimon here. So Shimon. Because Shimon says, davar she'eno mitkaven mutar. As long as you don't have kavanah to take off the hair, it's going to be mutar. Aval lo sorek, but you're not allowed to comb the hair. Atal Rabbanan, that goes according to Rabbanan. How could it be? It says Reisha Rabbi Shimon says Rabbanan. How could it be that the Reisha is going to be Rabbi Shimon, that you're allowed to come and do all these things, even though a hair is going to come out? But then the Seifa is going to be Rabbanan, right? That basically ki'ilu, that now you're not allowed to do that. What's going on over here? So Amar Rabba says, Kula, not the entire thing is Rabbi Shimon. Entire Mishnah. Kola sorek la'asim nimin meduldalo mitkaven. He comes and he says like this. When you come and you brush your hair, right? But derech klal, a person doesn't brush his hair unless he's got like small little tiny hairs in his head and he wants to remove it. So for these little tiny things or knots or whatever it is that you have in your hair, if you cannot remove it without brushing the hair. So when you're brushing the hair, you're taking out hair. So even according to Rabbi Shimon, it's going to be asur because that means that you have kavanah to take out the hair, and that's called psik reshe. Psik reshe means it's inevitable. Something which is inevitable, even Rabbi Shimon holds that it's so. So the brush, the fact that it's inevitable, right? Even though maybe nowadays you could argue, because nowadays a person brushes his hair not to take out hair. If you want to take out hair, you use a scissor.
No, I think
right?
they used to have the hairbrush.
Kakadosh Boker or. Yeah, we're continuing the next Mishnah. Yeah. The Mishnah says, Membet Amud Aleph in the middle of the page. Yeah. He comes and he says like this. It says, in the middle of the page, right? It comes and it says like this. It says, Rabbi Ishmael Omer, Rabbi Ishmael says, Lu yachuf ba'adama mipnei shemasheret et hasiar. A person should not come and start washing with adama because it's going to take off the hair. Yeah. So he comes and he says like this. He says, so they're going to ask a following question. Is it because it's going to take off the hair? Or maybe or because maybe, yeah, it's going to take off the hair. So says the Gemara, what's the difference? What does it mean that don't use adama because adama takes off the hair? Or maybe it's going to take off the hair. What's the difference? So he says, maybe there's a certain type of earth that does not take off the hair. If you're going to tell me it's so if you know that it doesn't take off the hair, it's going to be permitted. But if you're going to tell me because of it, never do it, because then maybe you're going to make a gzirah that, don't. If I'm going to permit you this type of adama, then you're going to use the other one, and this one does take off the hair. Don't use any adama. That's it. Fine. Next Mishnah. Okay? There's now the third Mishnah on the page. Nazir shayashote yain kol hayom. Imagine a Nazir that's drinking wine all day. He's only going to be chayav once the lashes. Amrullah, they told him, don't drink. Then he's drinking. He's going to be chayav on every single one. If the Nazir was migaleh kol hayom, he's only going to be chayav malkut once. Amrullah, they told him, they told him, don't take a haircut, and he's taking a haircut. He's going to be chayav on every single one. Okay? Imagine the Nazir, he's being metamem metim the entire day. He's not only going to be chayav once. They told him, don't become metamem metim. Then he keeps on going to the cemetery. So he's going to be chayav al kol achat ve'achat. Memet amubet 42b says the Gemara. Itmar, it was stated. Amar Rabba Baravuna, says Rabba Baravuna. Mikra maleh diber hakatuv, the pasuk is talking about lo yitama. What does it mean lo yitama? Keshehu omer, when it says hanefesh lo yavru. So it's laziro ala tum'ah, laziro ala biyah. Aval tuma v'tuma lo. What does that mean? It says in the pasuk lo yitama lahem bemotam. What does that mean? Right? That basically any type of tum'at met, you're not allowed to have. Whether it's going to be tumat ohel, or anything, nothing. You can't be underneath the same roof. Okay, fine. Now, when it says al nefesh met lo yavo, right, it means, right, that obviously it's an extra isur. So what's the extra isur? That's be two isurim. Because if you just told me lo yitama lahem bemutam, do not become tameh to them. So then what does it mean then? Al nefesh met lo yavo, don't come to a nefesh met. You just told me don't come to become tameh to them. So he says la ziro la tuma. It's forbidding you to become tameh met. And the second one is la ziro la biyah. You cannot come inside of a house that has a met there. Aval tuma v'tuma lo. But if it's going to be to do with tameh met, and then again to be tameh met, nobody told you that. So therefore, you can't give lashes twice. Rav Yosef Amar, but says Rav Yosef Elokim, no, it's not true. He swears that Amar Ravuna says Ravuna, afilu tuma v'tuma, that you're going to get lashes on tuma v'tuma, on both of them. Amar Ravuna says Ravuna, Nazir sheyeh omer bet hakvarot. Imagine a Nazir is in the bet hakvarot. V'oshitu lo meto umet acher. They come, they give him the dead body, and then again another person dies. When he touches the dead body, chayav, he's going to be chayav lashes on both. Am I why? He's already tameh. But rather comes teach you, says Rav Huna, even on tuma v'tuma, you're going to get the lashes. Meaning, according to Rav Huna, the fact that you have tuma v'tuma, it's going to be a soon. Eight ve'abaye. Abaye comes and he asks the following question: Kohen, imagine a Kohen has a dead person on his shoulders. He's carrying a dead person. So now they come and they give him another gufa, another body. And he touches it. I would have thought to say that he's going to be chayav. He's already tameh. So therefore, there's not going to be an extra issue. So Elmaleh, Rav Yosef comes and he tells Abaye, the teach shalach matnitin. 1 second, what about our Mishnah? Our Mishnah says, he's only going to be chayav once. But if they tell him al tameh, he's going to be chayav in every single one. Why? He's already tameh. So you have a stira then. You have a contradiction, right, between the Mishnah and the Braita. The Mishnah is telling you you're going to be chayav malkut on every single time, and the Braita is telling you you're not going to be chayav. Answers the Gemara la kashya kan bechiburin, the kan shelo bechiburin. Here we're talking about the tuma bechiburin. What does it mean bechiburin? That it's still the Kohen is nogea bemet arishon, right? That means he's still touching the first met. Since he's still touching the first met, there's no extra the fact that he touches the second met. But if there's no bechiburin, it's like a new tuma. Meaning if he's not attached to the first met, and he left the first met, the first deceased, and then he touches the second deceased, he's going to be chayav. Why? Because then he's touching. So says Gemara, the tumat chiburin doraita. You're going to tell me the tumat chiburin is doraita? Amar Yitzchak, Amar Yitzchak, Bar Yosef, Bar Yanai. Lo amnu tumat v'kochim. It's only by tumat v'kochim. Aval Nazir she'oseh Pesach lo. But a Nazir or somebody that's making a korban Pesach, we don't say that's tumat chiburin. So what's going on here? Via Marta midoraita. Now if you're going to tell me it's midoraita, what's the difference? Well, if you're going to tell me it's midoraita, there's such a concept of tumat chiburin. Why is it that only to do with Nazir and Pesach no, and tumat v'kochim yes? It should all be the same. So answers the Gemara. Kam bechiburei adam be'adam, v'kam bechiburei adam be'met. Here we're talking about that somebody was touching an adam after touching the met, and a third person comes, it's not tameh, comes, and he's going to touch the tumah v'kochim, it's only going to be the rabbanan. But here we're talking about bechiburei adam be'met, which means somebody was touching a met, so another person comes that he's also tameh, mina Torah, and therefore there's tumat chiburin, which is doraita. And therefore the Yosef comes and he says, there's a difference between tumat chiburin to tumah without chiburin, to do with the obligation of malkut and the tumah. Aval tumah v'tumah lo, but says the Gemara, if it's tumah v'tumah, no, you don't get, it's not going to be mitameh. Tami tameh v'kayim, he's already tameh. So answers the Gemara, tumah u'biyah nami ha-mitameh v'kay. He says even tumah, which means that he's actually mitameh because he's carrying the body or he's coming into a place where there's the deceased, it's also, he's already tameh. So Rabbi Yochanan says, kan b'bayit, kan b'sadeh. He says tumah u'biyah is talking about in the house, which means if the Nazir is tahor and he comes into a house that he has a dead person there, so the fact that he comes into the house, the tum'ah and coming into the house comes at the same time. So you have two different isurim, lo yitama and lo yavo. Don't come into a house of a tameh and don't become tameh. So therefore you did two isurim in one shot. But here we're talking about that you went into the sadeh. When you went into the sadeh, there's no roof. So therefore, since there's no roof, so therefore it's only you're only touching. So if you come and you touch two deceased persons or something like that, it's only going to be one lashes because it was not two different isurim, right, going on. Okay, have a wonderful day, everyone.